Good morning, children. Hope you have enjoyed your last class. Today, we are going to have an awesome time knowing about the early river civilization, Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Early civilization. Early village societies gradually developed into civilizations. These civilizations were no longer small village or group of villages but had important towns and cities as well. These civilizations first developed along the banks of the river because conditions there were conducive for living and for agriculture. Major civilizations included Sumeria, Babylonia, and Assyria. Physical features. Mesopotamia lies between the two rivers Tigris and Euphrates in southwest Asia. The Greeks named the region between Tigris and Euphrates as Mesopotamia after they visited the region. Meso, which means middle, Potmes, which means river. Because of this region's shape and the richness of its soil, it is called the Fertile Crescent. Ancient Mesopotamia included Sumer and Akkadian, Assyrian, and Babylonian. Impact of geographical location. The rivers were flooded frequently, and the southern Mesopotamia was marshy. Reeds grew alongside the river, and the soil of the region was very marshy. The constant water supply from the two rivers provided rich farm ideal for growing crops. The rivers flooded each spring. The early people built levees to keep the flood waters back and built irrigation system. There were no natural barriers for protections as small villages were lying open plain defenseless. Therefore, walls were built around the cities. Religion. Polytheistic religion. That means believing in so many goddesses, and demigods. They believed it was their duty to serve the gods. If the gods were not happy, then they would be punished by a flood or any other natural disaster. Gods were worshipped at huge temples called ziggurats. Ziggurats were believed to be homes for gods and goddesses. Ziggurats are huge structures with steps climbing up to the top. Religious ceremonies were held at the top. People left offerings of the food and wine. Only priests were permitted on the ziggurat, and it was their responsibility to take care of their gods and attend to their needs. As a result, priests were the very powerful member of the society. Ziggurat was built in the center of the town. Religious beliefs. They believed that gods influenced much of what happened to them in their lives. They also believed in demons created by gods who could be good or evil. Cities and kingdoms were believed to be protected by individual gods, and it was the duty of the ruler to act on the gods' behalf, building temples and performing ceremonies to gain the gods' blessings. They thought world as a sphere where one half was occupied by living and the other half by the dead. They believed that the souls of the dead wandered in the land of no return. The social structure. The topmost part of the pyramid was the priest. The next comes the king and his government officials. Then below are the soldiers and the scribes. Then are the craftsmen and peasants. And then the slaves. Priests were the closest to the gods, and the kings and government officials were responsible for creating the laws of each city state. The soldiers were proud members of the city state. In the same social class as the soldiers were the scribes, that were the writers. The craftsmen, they usually spent their day writing, creating items to send to the other places, selling goods or trading with their neighboring city states. Where one city state conquered another, they usually brought back prisoners to work as slaves for the upper classes. Government. The political system was a theocracy. There's a religious authority who ruled as a divine right. The divine rulers, the kings who got their power to rule from gods and therefore had godlike powers themselves. Kings were added by priests. There was no central government. Mesopotamia was divided into independent city states, which often fought for control of land and water. Although all the cities shared the same culture, each city had its own government, rulers, and warriors, its own patron god, and functioned like an independent country. At the center of each city was a temple called ziggurat. Cities built strong walls for protections from outside invaders. King Hammurabi created a set of rules containing the crimes and their punishments and the conduct for the citizens. This most ancient system of laws are called the Code of Hammurabi. The code had 282 laws. Writing. They invented a form of writing called cuneiform, that means wedge shaped. It is a pictogram form of writing, that is, a picture used to symbolize a word or phrase. They wrote on a wet clay tablets with the point of a reed, then dried in a sun to make a tablet. Economics. Mesopotamia developed an agricultural society. So, cereals, vegetables, dates, and they herded and fishing provided food. Crafts were well developed and were specialized in the skills like pottery, weaving, and metalwork. Since natural resources were few, trade was important. Metals like copper, tin, gold, and silver, as well as other necessities, even wood, were obtained in exchange for wool, grains, and dates. They were the first to use silver pieces as money. The boats, they use boat to travel for trade, and they made these boats from reeds. Bundles of reeds were tied together and coated with tar, which made them water resistant. These bundles were then tied together to make boats. Inventions and contributions. These people were the first to make wagon wheels, to use copper and bronze to make sailboats, to use the plows, they wrote laws and studied astronomy. They were first chemists. They developed a number system by using fingers, developed a 12-month calendar based on the cycles of the moon. It marked the times for the religious festivals and planting. Contribution to math. They developed a number system based on 60 minute per hour, 60 second a minute, 360-degree circle clock that was controlled by water. Arts and architecture. Household utensils were made from stone, copper, and bronze. Many of their arts were based on their gods, kings, and a lot of jewelry. Babylonia was a magnificent city, and it was surrounded by two high and thick protective walls of brick. Tar was used as cement. The walls had 8 gates. Babylon was also had the famous hanging gardens, which had varieties of plants. Taking water to these gardens was an engineering marvel, as there were no pumps or electricities those days. A thing to be noted. Thank you, children. Hope you enjoyed this class.